I accepted a job as a night watchman in an old wax museum for $50 an hour. I thought it was the easiest money of my life. All I had to do was sit in a booth and watch monitors. But when I arrived for my first shift, the previous guard didn't say hello. He just handed me a crumpled, coffee-stained piece of paper, looked me in the eye with absolute terror, and whispered, "Don't let them hear you breathe." Then he ran out the door. I looked down at the paper. It was a list of rules. Rule number 4 made my blood run cold. If you see a tall man in a top hat standing in the hallway, turn off your flashlight immediately. He can only see you if you can see him. Tell me, would you stay for the money or would you run before the sun went down? My name is Mike, broke college student, tuition due in 3 days. I didn't have the luxury of being scared. The museum is called the Sterling Archive. Victorian dolls, wax figures of serial killers. The kind of place that smells like dust and formaldehyde. The manager locked the gate at 10 p.m., but before he left, he grabbed my arm, hard. "Mike, read the list. I'm not joking." His hand was shaking. Then I was alone in the silence. It wasn't empty, it was heavy, like something was listening. I sat in the security booth, turned on the heater, and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was shaky, like someone wrote it while trembling. The rules for the night shift, midnight to 1 a.m. The phone in the booth might ring. Do not answer it. The line was cut 3 years ago. 1:15 a.m. Check monitor 4, the Hall of Dolls. If the dolls are facing the camera, look away and count to 10. If you look back and they are closer, hide under the desk. I stopped reading. My eyes went to the bathroom door at the end of the hallway. It was slightly open. I didn't remember it being open before. I kept reading. 2 a.m. You might hear scratching on the security door. It sounds like a dog. Do not open it. We don't have a dog. 3 a.m. to 3:33 a.m. This is dead time. Do not look at the mirrors in the bathroom. Do not look at the reflection in the windows. Do not look at any reflection. The most important rule: if you hear someone whistling Yankee Doodle from the basement, start praying. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "Okay, very funny," I said to the empty room. I crumpled the paper and threw it in the trash. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling TikTok. That was my first mistake. 12:03. I was watching a video about cooking steaks when a sound cut through the silence. Ring! The heavy, rotary phone on the desk, the dusty black phone that wasn't plugged into the wall. My heart stopped. I stared at the cord. It was dangling loose, severed, just like the rule said. Ring! It was loud, piercing. My brain tried to find a logical explanation. Maybe it's a prank device. Maybe a battery-operated speaker hidden inside. I'm a skeptic. I need to know how the trick works, so I reached out. My hand hovered over the receiver. Ring! "Hello?" I said, picking it up. Static, white noise, and then a voice. It sounded wet, like someone talking with a mouthful of water. "You shouldn't have thrown the list away, Mike." Click. I dropped the phone. It clattered onto the desk. I scrambled to the trash can and dug out the crumpled paper, my hands shaking uncontrollably. How did they know my name? How did they know I threw the list away? I looked at the monitors. Monitor 4, the Hall of Dolls. 10 minutes ago, the porcelain dolls were facing the hallway. Now, every single one of them was turned. Their painted, cracking faces were staring directly into the camera lens. And the one in front? The little girl in the red dress? She was waving. I realized then that this wasn't a job. It was a survival game, and I had already broken rule number 1. I have 6 hours left until sunrise. What would you do? Hide and pray? Or fight back against something that isn't human? Drop your answer, and I'll tell you what I did in part 2. And trust me, I chose wrong. I stared at monitor 4. The little girl doll in the red dress was waving at me. Panic is a cold bucket of water. I grabbed the list of rules.
Rule 2. If the dolls are facing the camera, look away and count to 10. If you look back and they are closer, hide under the desk. I squeezed my eyes shut. I started counting aloud, my voice cracking. 1, 2, 3. I could hear my own heart hammering against my ribs. 9, 10. I opened my eyes and looked at the screen. The dolls hadn't moved closer. They were gone. The hallway on monitor 4 was completely empty. Then, from right outside the thin metal door of my security booth, I heard a sound. Giggle. A soft porcelain giggle. I could hear them. Tiny footsteps on tile. Click, click, click. Porcelain on marble. I threw myself under the desk, curling into a ball, praying that the door locked automatically. I stayed under that desk for what felt like hours. I checked my watch. 2 a.m. Rule 3. You might hear scratching on the security door. It sounds like a dog. Do not open it. Right on cue. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It sounded exactly like a golden retriever wanting to come in, rhythmically pawing at the metal. Scritch, scritch. Mike? A voice called out from the other side. It wasn't a monster's voice. It was my mom's voice. Mike, honey, let me in. It's cold out here. My mom lives 3 states away. My rational brain knew it was a trick, but my lizard brain wanted to open the door. It sounded so real. Bit my hand to keep from screaming. Then I looked at the gap at the bottom of the door. The light from the hallway spilled underneath. I could see the shadow of the thing making the scratching sound. It wasn't a dog's paw, and it wasn't my mother. It was a long, skeletal finger, just one finger rubbing against the metal, back and forth. The fingernail was 3 inches long. The scratching stopped at 2:15 a.m. I crawled out from under the desk. I needed to check the feeds. Suddenly, the monitor's flicker died. The lights in the booth buzzed and went black. Total darkness. I grabbed my flashlight. The breaker box was in the main hallway, the same hallway where the dolls vanished. I didn't want to go, but darkness felt like a coffin. I stepped out. The museum smelled like old wood and something sweet, like rotting flowers. The flashlight beam hit the wax figures. Jack the Ripper, Lizzie Borden. I swear to God, Lizzie's chest was moving. I walked faster. You know what's funny? I'm telling you this story, and my hands are still shaking. It's been 3 months. I still can't look at mirrors after dark. But back to that hallway. I turned the corner toward the breaker box, and then I froze. About 30 feet away, standing perfectly still in the middle of the corridor, was a silhouette. It was unnaturally tall, maybe 7 feet. It was wearing a long trench coat and a stovepipe top hat. Rule mentioned by the previous guard: if you see a tall man in a top hat, turn off your flashlight immediately. I clicked the light off. Darkness swallowed. I stood there, blind, trying not to make a sound. I heard footsteps, heavy, wet footsteps coming towards me on the marble floor. Slap, slap, slap. They were getting closer. He was checking to see if I could see him. I closed my eyes. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The footsteps stopped right in front of me. I could feel the cold radiating off him. I could smell stale tobacco and rot. Something brushed against my ear. Then the footsteps walked away, fading into the distance. My shirt was wet. I didn't realize I'd been crying. I waited 2 minutes before turning the light back on. The hallway was empty. I ran to the breaker box, flipped the switch, and the lights hummed back to life. I sprinted back toward the security booth. As I passed the glass display case of medical tools, I made a mistake. I looked at the glass. 3:15 a.m. Rule 4. Dead time. Do not look at any reflection.
I saw my reflection in the glass. Pale face, terrified eyes, messy hair. But then I stopped running. My reflection didn't stop. The mic in the glass kept running. Then it stopped. Turned around, looked at me. It smiled. A wide, impossible smile that stretched too far across its face. It raised a hand and waved. I screamed and ran into the booth, slamming the door and locking all 3 deadbolts. I collapsed in the chair, sobbing. I just wanted to go home. I didn't care about the money. I looked at the clock. 3:30 a.m. I survived dead time. Okay, just a few more hours. Just stay inside. Then it started. A sound coming from the ventilation shaft, low and melodic. Whistle. It was a happy, jaunty tune. Yankee Doodle.
Doodle went to town. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed the list. Rule 5. If you hear someone whistling Yankee Doodle from the basement, start praying. The whistling wasn't coming from the basement anymore. It was coming from the ceiling, directly above my head, and the vent cover was slowly unscrewing. I'm trapped in a 5x5 glass booth. Something is coming out of the vent. The rules didn't say what to do if the whistling gets in the room. I have a gun in the desk drawer and a fire extinguisher. Gun or a fire extinguisher? One of them saved my life. Guess which one? Answer in comments. Part 3 drops tomorrow. The screws from the vent cover fell onto the desk. Clink, clink. The whistling grew loud. It wasn't just a tune, and it sounded like mocking, distorted laughter. I grabbed the fire extinguisher. I didn't try to fight. I jammed the nozzle into the vent slats and wedged the heavy red canister against the ceiling using the back of my chair. Something pushed from the other side. It wasn't wind. It was physical. The chair groaned under the pressure. I backed into the corner, clutching the gun my shaking hands could barely hold. "Go away!" I screamed. The whistling stopped instantly. Then, a voice drifted down from the vent. It wasn't the wet voice from the phone. It was my voice. "My, open the van. We just want to see you." For the next 2 hours, hell broke loose. 4:30 a.m. The dolls came back, but they didn't stay in the hallway. They pressed their faces against the glass of my booth. Dozens of their porcelain cheeks squeaked against the window. One of them, the girl in the red dress, was mouthing words. I couldn't hear them through the glass, but I could read her lips. "Let us in." 5. The phone rang non-stop. I ripped the cord out of the base. It kept ringing. 5:30 a.m. The scratching returned, but this time the metal door began to buckle inward. Something was pushing, something strong. I sat in the center of the room, gun pointed at the door, eyes darting to the vent, whispering the Lord's Prayer. I'm not religious, but in that room, everyone is a believer. 5:59 a.m. The door frame was bending. The dolls were tapping on the glass in unison. Tap, tap, tap. The vent cover was about to give way. I closed my eyes and put the gun in my mouth. I wasn't going to let them take me. Click. A loud mechanical sound echoed through the building. The automatic locks on the main entrance disengaged. Sunlight. A single beam of dusty morning light hit the hallway floor. Instant, the tapping stopped. The pressure on the vent vanished. The phone went silent. I opened my eyes. The dolls were gone. The hallway was empty. I dropped the gun and vomited on the floor. The front door opened. The manager walked in, holding a cup of coffee and a donut, looking as casual as if he was walking into a bank. He saw him, pale, covered in sweat, sitting in a puddle of vomit. He checked his watch. 6:05, he said, smiling. "You made it. Most people quit by 2 o'clock. He handed me a check, stepped right over the bent metal door like it was nothing. "Here's your pay. $400 for the night, plus $100 for cleanup." I snatched the check. "I quit," I rasped. "I quit. I'm calling the police." The manager laughed. "Go ahead, kid. Check the tapes. The cameras only record static after midnight. Nobody will believe." He leaned in close. "See you tonight, Mike? You survived once. The second night is always easy." "Go to hell," I said. I ran out of that building. I didn't stop running until I got to my car. I sped away, watching the museum disappear in the rearview mirror. I drove home in silence. The morning sun felt amazing. I was alive. I had $500 in my pocket. I told myself it was a hallucination, gas leak, stress, anything logical. I got to my apartment, locked the door, and went straight to the bathroom to wash the night off my face. I turned on the faucet. I splashed cold water on my skin. I rubbed my eyes, trying to scrub away the image of the tall man. I grabbed a towel and dried my face. Then I looked in the mirror. I lowered the towel. In the mirror, I was standing there. My bath, my shirt, my face. But my reflection wasn't holding a towel. My reflection was standing perfectly still, hands at its sides. I froze. I couldn't breathe. My reflection smiled. That same wide, impossible smile I saw in the museum glass. Leaned forward, its nose touching the glass from the other side. Then my reflection winked. "Whistle." The sound didn't come from the mirror. It came from my own throat. But I wasn't whistling. My lips were moving against my will. "Yankee Doodle went to town." Didn't escape the museum. I broke rule number 4. I looked at the reflection during dead time. The thing in the mirror didn't want to kill me. It wanted to be now. It's wearing my skin. I'm typing this from inside the mirror. It's dark in here, and I can see him living my life. He's going to work. He's talking to my mom. So please, if you see me on the street, don't say hello. Whatever you do, never look into a mirror after 3 a.m.